Greetings, Tony Mobley here, and we're back with a new conversation with Tony Mobley. Yes, we are. We're back. Hey, we're back with a new conversation. And tonight, I'm having a conversation with interfaith minister Nancy Huslage. Understanding your dreams. That's right. We're going to be talking about understanding your dreams. And tonight is episode 30 of Conversations with Tony Mobley. Why are we here? We are here because life has provided me the opportunity to have real conversation with real people. First, I want to thank my guest, Benjamin Antiput, for our conversation on last Wednesday. This young man is doing his thing in his first year of college. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for being with me last week. And I want to thank the team behind Conversations with Tony Mobley. So we are here for real conversations, but I need your help. I need your help because we want you to be a full participant in this conversation. That's right. You have an opportunity to be a participant in this conversation. So you can go to my website, conversationwithTonyMobley.com, and you can register to participate in the Mukana chat, which is a chat that will allow you to put in a question and have that question voted up or down. So if you like that conversation, if you like this conversation, if you like the conversation that we've had in the past, like and subscribe and set that bell so that all notifications will remind you of upcoming conversation. And so now we are here and it's time for the conversation with Miss Nancy Huslage. And I am so happy to have you here, Nancy. And we're going to start with the very first question. Who is Nancy Huslage?
That's a big question. I am an interfaith minister, and I had a career as a hospice chaplain. And before I did that, I did dream leader training, and I did more training on dreams while I was in seminary. And it has been the constant through my last 30 years is doing dream work with people. It was, I went to college, I had kids, I did all that stuff, and then I went back to school and get to graduate school, and then I went to seminary, and I've done lots of things in my life, but the constant for the last 30 years has really been dream work.
Fantastic. So our next question is, when did you share your first understanding of a dream?
It's funny. I used to think I could explain why I had dreams. Growing up, I remember I had lots of dreams, and I go, oh, I dreamed about that because yesterday I dreamed about a bluebird because I saw a bluebird, or that kind of thing. But then there was this point, it was 1990, right after my mother died, that I had a dream that just haunted me and puzzled me. And it was, I just had to get some help with it. So I asked around, and I had a friend someone who became a real mentor and friend to me who taught me about dream work. And that was in 1990.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. What have your children have to say about all of what you're doing?
Oh my goodness. That is a loaded question. That's so funny because I think they're pretty proud of what I do, but they really do a lot of eye rolling some of the time. It's kind of like as I get older, then not so much that way. But I remember our youngest son writing a paper about why dreams don't matter one time, and I thought it was so funny because it was just him exercising his independence, I think. And both of them have come to me and asked me about dreams since then, but it's my thing, not theirs so much.
Okay. What lessons have you learned from your parents that you're currently using today?
Well, I grew up in a single parent household with my mother, and interestingly, tomorrow would be her 100th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, so she was very open to alternative thought and alternative ways of looking at things, and I think that just gave me the freedom to look at things. I remember when I was in 8th grade, I had to do a science project, and she suggested that I do it on extrasensory perception, people
Mm-hmm.
able to tell the future. And I had a great time working on all of that. And I won a prize. And it was the funniest thing um, because I never thought that I would continue on down that path. And my life has been one mystical adventure after another since then because I had permission to do it when I was a kid.
Yeah, we have to thank our mothers for giving us a little bit of vision to be able to exercise in the future.
That's right.
Um, when did you know that this was the path for you?
So I went to a dream conference there was this thing that happened in the mountains of North Carolina called Journey into Wholeness. And it was Jungian dream work, the work of Carl Jung, and there were lots of famous analysts and things like that who came to this conference. And we were put into a dream group, and I was in a dream group with a man that became one of my mentors, Jeremy Taylor. And by the time that was over, I knew that that's what I needed to be doing. And I remember going and finding him and saying, Jeremy, how do I how do I get certified to do dream work? And he looked at me and he said, do you know that at this point there is no certification for dream work? I
Oh,
think you
wow.
should just go home and start a dream group. So I did. And actually, it's funny because about a year or two later, the Hayden Institute started, and it has a program in dream leadership training, and I was in the first class. But the really funny part is Alan Proctor, who was in my first dream group, he was one of the first people that I had when I came home from that conference, is now the director of the Hayden Institute. So it's come full circle. And
Wow.
then I did more certification with Jeremy Taylor too. Yeah. So I've had lots of education on this over the years, but at first it was just a knowing that this is what I need to do, and that's just never left me.
That's fantastic. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for sharing.
Sure.
And the next question is, how did you get started on this journey of helping people understand dreams?
Well, I think that was just what I came home and I had this dream group, and I kept listening to lectures and things like that and going to conferences. And the more I was studying it, the more I realized that this is the path to the soul. This is really soul work, deep, deep work when you get started doing working with your dreams. And I thought that's the most direct way that we can connect with our own inner divine nature. And so I finally just decided that that's what I want to do, and here we are.
I'm just curious, how many people were in that first group that you did?
Five
Okay.
people. And I guess we met for 2 years every Monday night and learned a lot from each other. And I learned a lot about dreams and the method that Jeremy taught, and it's the similar method to what's taught at the Hayden Institute, is something called projective dream work. So a person will tell a dream and then we'll say, well, in my version of that dream, this is what that would mean. And so you're not really, so everybody's weighing in on the dream, and it's just a great process.
Sounds fantastic.
It is.
Okay, so the next question is, what can we learn from our dreams?
Oh my goodness. You can learn so much from your dreams. They can help you to see where you have blocks, where you're not seeing what's really going on. They can give you some indication about what the next part of your path might be. And it's just really interesting. I've had dreams that took me into a place that I never thought I would be. Can I tell you a dream and tell you what I learned?
Absolutely.
Well,
Please do so.
this is a great example. So when I was in seminary, and Jeremy taught at the seminary where I went, and we always had dream work, I had a dream that was just this hilarious dream. In the dream, I'm dead, and I'm in the funeral home, and I'm with a bunch of other dead people, and it's after hours. Talk about after hours. It's after hours. We're all trying to decide what it is we want to wear to be laid out in this dream, where it's a party. And I go and pick a sapphire blue ball gown and put it on. And it gets close to morning, and we all go, oh man, we need to go jump in our coffins.
Oh, wow.
And that was the end of the dream. Well, in dreams, death is often about transformation. And so I remember having a conversation with Jeremy about this. And I said, I understand that death is about transformation, but what if you've already died in the dream? What's that about? And he said, well, in my dream, that would be that I've already done the transformation. And
okay.
why did I pick this ball gown to be buried in? And the really funny part about that was, he said, well, I think in my version of that dream, I want to present myself in a more formal way. Well, what I learned from this is that, so I was in seminary and I was trying to decide if I really wanted to be ordained and all of that kind of stuff. And this dream showed me that my psyche, my soul really wanted to present myself in a formal way as a minister. And I really got that confirmation from that dream. It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's very powerful. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
That was very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that question was from Clara Lopez Waterman, Astoria, New York. And the next question is, why do we say we don't remember or we didn't dream?
Well, I think what it is psychologists and scientists have shown that most people dream cycles last about 90 minutes. And so during the night, you may have 4 or 5 dreams during the night, but dreams are in a nonlinear part of your brain. And so when you start doing linear things, like if you wake up and you start making a list of what you have to do, the dream will evaporate. You can't find it anymore. So you have to train yourselves to wake up a different way so that you can remember your dreams. And I have some tips for that. I think they're on your website.
Yes.
And so it's not that you don't dream, it's that you don't remember your dream. And learning how to do good dream recall is just a muscle you have to exercise. It, and you have to want to remember your dreams.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so that sort of brings us to the next question. When someone has dreams, what are your suggestions for capturing or remembering them? So this would be a good time for you to sort of talk about the tips. And
Yeah,
I'm sorry that we don't have them available for you right
that's
now, but
okay. That's all right. That's fine. So the first thing is to put a pad of paper and a pencil next to your bed, because you want to do a little journaling about your dreams. You want to capture at least some highlights before you get up and start walking, because walking is also one of those linear movements that will take you out of the dream. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I'll go, "Oh, I'm a dream expert. I'll remember this dream." Goes away. So you really have to remember that. The other thing that I think is really important is to set an intention, to just say, before you go to bed, I would really like to remember my dream. And then that triggers the unconscious, and then people, your psyche sort of sees that you're serious about it. Some other things that can really waylay a dream, being remembered, is things like you can't wake up to a radio because what happens is your body's going to try to stay asleep, and your dream gets all mixed in with whatever's on the radio. It doesn't work very well. And this is the hardest one for people in our culture to do, is you will remember more dreams if you go to sleep at regular time and get 8 hours of sleep. You'll remember more.
being consistent.
Yeah, but that being said, that's hard. People live we live really busy lives. I have captured some of my best dreams after a nap.
Okay.
Yeah, naps are a great way to remember dreams too, because you wake up and you're not so rushed for time, and you go, oh. And the other thing you can do is ask yourself, now, what was it that I was dreaming? If that's your first question when you wake up, if you train yourself to ask that, you'll remember more. So those are some ideas that I have about what might help.
Very cool. Okay. Can you share your process for helping people understand their dreams?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is really important is Carl Jung. There was a protege of Carl Jung's. Her name was Marie Louise von Franz. And Marie Louise von Franz said, you can't know your own back. And what she meant by that is you almost need to work with somebody, because dreams come to tell you what you don't know. And you're only going to be able to see what you do know. So it's really good to work with people on your dreams. The other thing is to look at the images as metaphor. So when I'm dreaming about, you can look at your associations with certain things. Like if you think about symbol and metaphor in a dream, and I'm thinking about dying, and I have these dreams about death, a lot of times that's really about, I get excited because it's about, I'm transforming. There's something that's changing inside of me. Something's dying and something's getting better. And then, you look at different images in the dream and just sit with them and see what they have to offer, because some of them are really crazy, and you have to think about them metaphorically, not literally. So, for instance, if I dream about my brother, it's not literal. It's about what my brother represents in me, because all the characters in the dream, the kind of dream work that I do, all the characters in the dreams are aspects of myself. So I might ask myself, what are the 3 adjectives that I would attribute to my brother? And I would say he's kind, he's obnoxious, whatever words work for whatever I think about my brother or the characters in the dream. And that can give you some idea about what's going on, because those are aspects of your own personality. So there's lots of so the process that I use is always to look at things metaphorically and symbolically. So if you have an animal in a dream, what's a cat? What does a cat mean to me? What are the aspects of a dog? That, those kinds of things help too. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sure. We have another question from Mike Emmett of Melbourne, Australia. And he says, the internet is full of dreams of analysts, information. Much of it is generic. How useful is Google in understanding a dream, if at all?
I always tell people to look at your own associations before you start looking at something on the internet, because you can't, they may give you some clues, but it may not be true at all for you. It may not. I think your own intuition is a better monitor for dreams than better measure of how to work with your dreams than dream encyclopedias or Google or whatever. That being said, there is something that I do say that I think is really important. There's a lot of myth and lore around particularly animals. And sometimes I think it's interesting to look at animal medicine kinds of things on the internet to see what's said about a fox or a deer or some animal that shows up in your dreams. And it can give you an idea, and you can go, oh, yeah, maybe that is what I'm feeling. If a fox shows up, maybe there's a little trickster in me. How am I deceiving myself? That kind of thing. So, yeah, that's helpful sometimes.
Okay, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And Clark Lopez Waterman is back again. Does your work fall in
Jungian methodology? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see the question. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, that does. It does. That Carl Jung is I think that he had a really great way of looking at dreams. Now there are other methods, but that's the one that informs most of my dream work. Yes.
And when you were in seminary, how much of Dr. Jung's information was required? I'm just curious.
There was more required. The Hayden Institute is fully Jungian based, and so that's where I learned most of my Jungian stuff. In seminary, it was really understanding how dream work was important in different religions, because most religions in their sacred texts have dreams. And it's about what I learned in seminary was more in an interfaith seminary. What do Hindus think about dreaming? What do Muslims think about dreaming? How are they used, and how is that information used in their religion? And so that was what I learned mostly in seminary. But at the Hayden Institute, it was a lot of Jung psychology, and reading him and reading analysts who've written about his work and expanded it. And so that's where I learned most of my Jungian stuff.
And can you share again the seminary that you went to?
I went to the chaplain's.
Dream vividly versus barely remembering our dreams.
I just think people are so lucky if they have vivid dreams because there's so much to work on. I don't really know if there are reasons for that. I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it is dream recall, and sometimes dreams come in a really. I always say that dreams come in a really negative way, or if dreams come in a really vivid way, it's really my unconscious trying to get my attention. There's a lot that I'm trying to. My psyche is really trying to work with me and give me this dream so I'll remember it. And that's why people remember nightmares. The content of a nightmare looks scary on the surface, but a lot of the times when you unpack it, it's not. And I think any of this vivid dreaming, is my psyche really, my unconscious is trying to give me messages, and I need to start listening.
Very cool. Thank you, Todd, for that question.
Yes.
And Mike Emmett from Melbourne, Australia, is back again, and he says, without asking for specific analysts, how significant are the other people who appear in our dreams, like friends, lovers, or strangers?
They're absolutely important because, like we were talking earlier, it's really all of those characters are aspects of myself. I have projected onto those people aspects of myself that I need to look at. So they're utmost important, So when you dream about strangers, or you just have to look at the aspects of those people and what kind of things I attribute to the person to see what's being asked of me. And that's really important. So, for instance, there is a concept in Jungian, in Carl Jung had of the shadow, and these are aspects of ourselves that we've relegated to the unconscious because we can't believe that we could ever be that. My kids may be on here and they'll hear this and they'll think this is funny. So I had a friend that showed up in my dreams a lot. Her name was Pat. And she was very controlling. She was domineering. She was all of these things. And she would show up in my dreams as my shadow if I had overstepped my boundaries with my children. And I would know that I had made a big mistake and that my shadow was coming out, and I was way too controlling. And yesterday, whenever I was talking to my children, I was trying to get into their business too much. If that ever happens, Pat shows up in my dream, and I know that's my shadow. That's me thinking I can never be that domineering and that pushy and all that stuff. Sure enough, yes, I can.
That's very cool. Oh boy, Miss Pat. Thank you. Let's see. Mike Emmett is back, and he says, for very, very dreamers, how much importance should we carry on should we ascribe from the dream into our daily lives?
A lot, I think, but not literally. That's the thing. Dreams are so much of the time not literal. Occasionally you'll have something that is literal, but it's really important to carry that information. That's why it comes. I think that's why dreams come, is to give us information that's relevant to our waking life. Yes.
Yeah, I had a nightmare last night, matter of fact, and it had nothing to do with you. and as you have demonstrated, it is about me in how I'm represented in all of those different aspects of this particular nightmare. So I won't go into it on air with you, but we may talk about it off air. But but it was interesting. It was an interesting dream. It wasn't scary, but it was a nightmare. So.
But one of the common, let me just talk about a common nightmare that shows up a lot
Okay.
whenever I'm doing dream work with people. Well, it often shows up in the first, people will bring a nightmare to the dream group first because it's bothered them so much, it's worried them. So one of the ones that I get a lot is a pursuit dream where somebody's chasing me, trying to kill me, trying to do all those things, and or an animal's following me everywhere and I can't get away from the animal. So really, Jeremy always used to say that all dreams come in the service of health and wholeness, even nightmares, that they only come in a negative way so that we'll remember them. But when you start unpacking them, there's a lot there. And with a pursuit dream, you want to turn around and look at what's pursuing you. What's trying to get my attention? That's what a pursuit dream is about. And then you look at, what am I not looking at in my waking life that needs my attention? And if I project onto most people's dreams when they say that, and I say, in my dream, I'm being pursued by something and I wonder what I'm not looking at. 90% of the time, they can tell me exactly what they're not looking at, what they're afraid to look at. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that we were having this conversation and I had a nightmare last night. So
We'll talk offline. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a question from, and I apologize, I'm having trouble seeing it. It looks like it's Donna. Donna Edley.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and she is in, looks like Midland?
Midland, Texas.
Midland, Texas, okay. Do you wake up and write down your dreams, or how do you remember them? I don't remember mine.
Yes, I do. I wake up and I will write them down. A lot of people keep their phone next to their bed and they will turn on the recording function and just talk the dream into their phone. And that works great for a lot of people. For some people, they find that I remember when we used to have those gadgets, those little hand recorders before the phone recorded things.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had a person who was in a dream group, and she said, I just thought I would get one of those little recordings and then I could just hear it. She said, but I didn't wake up enough and it was like, she couldn't quite get awake enough to do it. But yes, I write down dreams a lot, or I'll wake up and speak the dream out loud. If it's early in the morning, I'll wake up and I'll say, I had this dream about so-and-so and so-and-so. And that will help me remember if I really don't have time to write it down before nature calls. But you can do any of those kinds of things and it will help. Yeah, that works.
Last night when I had this morning when I had the nightmare, I actually picked up my phone and opened up notes on my iPhone and actually typed as much of it as I could remember.
Yeah.
And that was very helpful later on in the day when I looked at it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is you can just write down key words. You can say, I dreamed about a snake and a snake in the car or whatever. You can give yourself some little hints about a dream that way. And sometimes you can recall it if you do that. Not always, but 50% of the time.
I'm going to make a little adjustment so that I can see if I can improve me seeing the questions. And I know we have a question coming up from Robert. Hello, Robert. Thank you for your question. Okay, it just says, Robert, are you ever intentional before going to bed asking what you would like to dream about?
Sometimes. And there is a whole process called dream incubation that you can do. If you need information on a particular subject, you can write it down. Give me information about this thing that I'm working on or whatever it is, Give me information about what I need to be eating, those kinds of things. You can incubate things like that, and they will show up in your dream in a different, in some sort of way. And usually it's not very literal. You just have to record your dream and then look at the metaphorical part of that dream too. But yes, you can ask for information from your dreams, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Maybe your unconscious has something else it wants to talk about more, so you don't get to talk about it. But yeah, that works. And in fact, I had that experience fairly recently. I was trying to figure out, I wanted to change the way I ate a little bit. And I had this was about the most literal dream I've had lately. There was this woman that I was in a coaching group with years ago who was a wellness expert. And we were walking on the beach, and she was teaching me how to eat a more plant-based diet. And I took that to mean that my unconscious is really wanting me to eat more vegetables. So sometimes that happens.
Thank you, Robert, for that question, and thank you, Nancy, for that answer. Dr. Denise Connor, I believe. I've heard that dreams are often multi-layered, reflecting many aspects of the dreamer's life, i.e., a layer of health, creativity, sexuality, collectiveness, collective, spiritual, etc. Have you found this to be true?
Sure. I think dreams have many, many layers. You look at a dream one time and you'll think it's about one thing, and then this happens in groups more than any other time. So I will have this idea about what the dream means, and I'll put it out to the group. And then somebody else will say, well, no, I don't think that's what that's about at all. I think it's about so-and-so and so-and-so. And the dreamer gets to look at that. And a lot of times when the dreamer comes back into the group, he or she's taken notes about what people have said, and she'll go, oh, this is all true. It's all relevant to me. And it could be about many different aspects of, it could be about work, it could be about health, it could be about sexuality, it could be about all those things. And that works great. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Connor, for that question. Dr. Connor of Silver Springs, Maryland. And we have another question all the way from another part of the world, from the Philippines, Mr. Mickey Makachor. And the question is there a correlation between remembering dreams and our body's physical condition, such as being tired or fatigued?
I can only speak for myself. I tend to remember dreams when I'm not exhausted. Sometimes when you're exhausted, I think it's harder to remember dreams. And yet that's not a given. Sometimes if your unconscious is really interested in giving you information, you're going to get the dream anyway. It may come in a more vivid way. Yeah. But I find that I'm better if I'm not totally exhausted, because it's harder to wake up to remember the dream. When I'm exhausted, I just I want to turn over and go back to sleep. I don't want to wake up and remember that dream. It's hard, I think.
Thank you, Mickey, for the question. Robert is back. Is there more than one meaning to a dream? Do the meanings sometimes unfold months or years later?
Yes, Robert, that does happen. I've worked with people for a long time with dreams, and we'll get the first layer of the dream in a group, I have private clients too, and we'll get to one level of it, but we'll circle back around to a dream at some point, and it will become relevant in a different way. There was my favorite story about this was there was this Jungian analyst. His name's Robert Johnson, and he's passed away in the last year or two. But he was at one conference. He told, there are big dreams. Some dreams are bigger than others, and some of them are really life changing. And he had this real life changing dream in 1948, and this must have been in the 90s. And he was still unpacking that dream, and it was still speaking to him. So, yes, dreams come back around. I've got a dream that I've been working on since 1990 that still I get new things from it all the time.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And Robert is back again. Okay, Robert says, is there more than, I'm sorry, if you miss the meaning of a dream, will the dream come again or in another story with the same message?
I feel sure it will. I feel sure it does. I think that our unconscious gives us dreams until we get it, and when there's something big going on in your life that your unconscious is, dreams are trying to make your life, your unconscious conscious. And so I think it's likely that we get this dream in different ways, in different stories, and different symbols until we get it, and so yeah, it's my feeling that happens all the time. So if you miss it, don't feel too bad. It'll come back.
And we may have been getting it before and just now realizing it.
That's
too,
right.
So.
And then you'll go, oh, that's what that dream was about. Yeah. Now I understand. That happens a lot. You have a dream and you're not sure what it means, and then all of a sudden something will happen in your life, and it's like, I got it now. Okay, I get it.
And Tlalak Lopez Waterman is back again with a question, and he says, do you set other intentions before asleep besides wanting to remember the dream?
Well, I think it goes back to the dream incubation. If I want information about something, I may ask something. It needs to be pretty open-ended. It's kind of like, give me information about my relationship with my husband. I don't know, whatever the thing is, and sometimes I do that. I tend to be one of these people that just wants to know what my psyche wants me to know, but occasionally there is a time that I'm more interested in knowing what's unconscious than to try to direct the dream too much. Yeah,
I understand. Yes, I think I'm that way too.
yeah.
And Tlalak Lopez Waterman is back again with, when interpreting dreams, what is the best way to keep the interpreter's intentions out of the interpretation?
Paula, can you ask that question again? I'm not sure I understand it.
And it may be, let me try to read it again. When interpreting dreams, What is the best way to keep the interpreter's interpretations out of the interpretation?
I think what you're asking, let me just take a stab at this. I think what you're asking is how I do this is I'm always saying, if it were my dream or in my version of this dream, and then it's up to the dreamer to either accept what I say or say, oh, no, that's not going to fit. That's not it. And then we work on some other piece of the dream, you know. But I always try to keep my own projections. That's what I call them, projections on the dream. I always try to make sure that the dreamer understands that that's my projection. And it's always up to the dreamer to either accept or not accept that projection. And I think it's really important. That's the safest way to do dream work, because I can't really know what the dreamer is going through all the time, you know, and stuff like that. So I think it's really important to couch my projection, and it's really a projection for myself. You know, I take on the dream as if it were mine, and in that context, it's really, I always say in my dream, I'm not saying this is what this means for you, because I don't really know. I can just give you my ideas about it, and then it's up to you whether you think that's true or not.
Okay, but I think I understand you just said earlier that it really is about the person looking inward and trying to decipher what that dream really means for them, because it is them telling their conscious, telling them there's something that they need to be aware of.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it is an inward journey, and I'm there to give some guidance, but and a lot of times, and what Jeremy always used to say is, a person, if you have an aha about something that I've said or something that someone else has projected, that's your touchstone, and that really resonated with you. And it's like, no, I don't feel that at all, then just let it go, because that was in projective dream work, I'm doing work at the same time that you are. The images that show up in your dreams are images that I've dreamed before. And so I'm doing my own work on your dream. That happens a lot in projective dream work. It's not just me. I'm doing my work while I'm doing I'm giving you some ideas. So.
And what is the meaning of touch zone for those who may not know?
You know, if I say something and you go, oh yeah, that's true, I get it. You know, if it's that sort of response to the dream, I know that's a true affirmation for that person, that we've touched on something that's important to them.
Very cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Robert. Donna Edney from
okay. Yeah.
Is it Edney?
Edney.
Okay. And she says, there are people who say they never dream. Do you think... Oh, I'm sorry. Robert is back again. Have you ever had a person pass away in your dreams? Did it feel like a visitation?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So there's a way, you know, a lot of times my mother will show up in my dreams as a part of the fabric of the dream, and I know what she symbolizes to me, but occasionally there will be a dream that is so much more intimate. I remember I had, it happened to me with my mother. I can remember there was this one dream. It was like 4 or 5 years after she died, and I could feel her arm around me, and she was telling me how much she loved me. And there was something very soft and intimate about that. And it felt like a visitation. And all the rest of the dream, she's there and she's part of the fabric of the dream. She's part of the wallpaper and she has a part to play, but it's not the same. So I think there is, and the way that I see visitation dreams is it's almost like there's an intimacy in the dream. There's a real closeness. I remember I was working with a woman whose husband had died of cancer. And she said, I was doing a grief group and I had everybody record their dreams during that group. And she said, last night, my husband came and he touched me on my face and he told me how beautiful I was. And it felt like he was right there in the room. So I think there are those visitation dreams. I do. I've had enough experience to think that happens sometimes, that somehow from the other side, people break through and give you what you need at that moment.
Can I share one of my
Sure.
visitation dreams with you?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say probably about 3 or 4 months ago, I had a dream that my mother-in-law had visiting me, and she was sharing with me one of the things that she and I used to do. I was teaching high school autism, and she has a autistic grandson. And in this dream, we would have, well, before she passed, we would have a lot of different conversations about the things that needed to happen for him for independence and the things that were required and things that I was suggesting as a teacher to help him. And so when she passed, before she passed, a lot of that didn't get done. But in the dream, she gave me some specific directions in order to help him. And it was, I mean, in the dream, I know it was me, but in the dream, it was her. And it was her in all her fervor and enthusiasm. And she said, she gave me a task to do, and I did it. And
Yeah, isn't that great?
yes, and I honestly say that there was kind of a sense of relief after I had accomplished the task that she directed me, and she gave me several different tasks, and I spoke to. And when I say spoke, I gave directive to those people who she had given me directions to. So I did what I was supposed to do. But there was this sense of relief that I experienced after I implemented what I was instructed to do.
That's wonderful. That's great. So good.
So Donna is back, and she says there are people who say that they never dream. Do you think that is true, and they just don't remember? We had this question a little bit earlier, but we're gonna answer it. Try to answer it again for Donna.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that most people dream. I think that there may be people who don't dream because of some sort of medication they take. I think that sometimes happens. And I don't know what those medicines are. But by and large, I think it's really a recall issue more than anything else. It's just they're waking up and they're busy and they're, not paying attention and stuff like that. But occasionally, I think there probably are people who, for whatever reason, are on some sort of medication that would keep them from remembering their dreams. I can't say. I don't know what those medicines would be, but I would think that there's some psychological medicines that might interrupt that.
Do you think that sometimes life gets in the way, sometimes that also helps us, not be able to interpret or remember the dreams?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And when we get really busy and we get real distracted and we've got a lot of things on our plate and we're trying to get a lot done. I think that sometimes that happens. And the other thing that I think is, I think a lot of times if you have the mindset that dreams are just a way, there is this theory that dreams are just there to sort of balance your life and they're really not important. But I think that we have an inner movie director who's trying to give us lots of information every night. It has not been my experience that it's the other way. But I think if you believe that, you may be one of those people that just is not going to pay attention and recall your dreams.
I think you're right. I think the director is calling the shots in terms of the dream life.
At the Hayden Institute, we call it the dream maker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Mike Emmett back again from Melbourne, Australia. We are all over the world with these questions. So Mike says, what are some of the strongest symbols that we see in dreams?
Oh my goodness. I don't know that I think that there are strongest symbols. I mean, that's a hard question.
Could it be that the symbols may have different weights for different people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I'm not terribly afraid of snakes, then a snake showing up in my dream is not going to be a terrifying experience. But if somebody is terribly afraid of snakes and they show up in their dreams, it'll read as a nightmare. And I think the strength of the symbols have to do with everything about where you are in your own journey. I can't say that there are strongest symbols and stuff like that because I don't think that that's true. It doesn't read that way for me.
Thank you, Mike, for your question. Robert is back again. Do you title your dreams when writing them down?
Of course. Yes, I do. I think it's really important. This is really good to talk about because I give all of my dreams titles and I want to say they're more like headlines where they have a little bit of the action in the dream, like I had sextuplets, or I married Donald Trump, or I did so and so and so and so. Those kinds of things mean that when I've recorded dreams for years and years and years, I can go back and look through my journal and I don't have to read every dream. I can read the titles. And so in my dream journals, I title them and then in the back, I index them, I'll just in order, I'll just write down the titles and then I can look in the back and I can go, oh, it was in this journal. I need to go back and look at this dream. And I think it's such a great way to, but the thing is a lot of people want to give like one word titles like flying. Well, if I'm a dreamer that flies a lot in my dreams, I'm going to have 49 dreams that are flying. So you got to give it a little more than that, like flying over Ireland or flying with a backpack on my back or whatever, would give you more indication about it. I think that's really important.
Thank you, Robert. And we have a question from Raleigh, North Carolina, from Worthy Darjan. Can I set an intention to dream about something specific to get information or to set my subconscious to make it happen?
Yes and no. Yeah, you sort of can, but your dream maker is going to do what the dream maker does. I do set intentions occasionally. I will ask, to understand something more, and maybe not. I will get the answer from that. But I'm not sure I understand to make it happen. That that is a question that I don't think that I can influence my unconscious in that way to make something happen that's not supposed to be happening. It might be that they would coincide in that direction, and they might, it might happen, but I'm not sure that I have that much influence over my unconscious.
Yeah, I'm wondering, are they trying to take over the director's job?
Well, I wondered that. Yeah. It would be nice,
Okay.
but it's still, I'm not sure. I think that happens very often. I'm sure it does sometimes. Anything's possible.
Okay. And so we have another question from Robert. Robert is back. He says, do you ever create art around an image in a dream?
Thanks for that question, Robert. Yes, often. I think that creating some symbol of a significant dream to you, if it's really made a huge difference in your life, is a great thing. I think it's really good. Like, I had this dream, it's been a long time ago, 10 years ago maybe, where there was this ball of black snakes in my backyard, and they were crawling all over me and saying curandera, which in Spanish means healer. And it was very important to me because it really affirmed that I was a healer and that I had, that was part of my journey. And I'd never really thought about it before. And so I have made I took some clay and I made a little ball of snakes and painted it black. And it sits on my altar a lot of the times because it was such a significant dream. And so I think, anytime you have a real significant symbol, I think that art is a good way to embody the dream.
Is there any particular medium that you think would be effective in capturing that?
I think it depends. If you're a visual artist, I'm not, and so I just have to do what comes to me. Sometimes just ink or pens or colored pencils, you can draw, or you can make something out of clay, or you can, build something out of, it just depends on there's no particular medium that works better. It's whatever you feel comfortable with, I think.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Denise Connor from Silver Springs, Maryland is back again. I've heard that if dream doesn't get through to us the first time, it will come again with a different story or symbol.
Yes, I think that's right. And the other thing that is related to that, Denise, is, our friend Jeremy, I know Denise, our friend Jeremy always said that if you have more than one dream in a night and you capture more than one dream, because we have 4 or 5, but it's like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 of the same story. And they will look totally different, but when you start unpacking them, they all are related to the same thing. And so, I think your unconscious will get as far, it will. Yes.
Okay. So we have another question from Mr. Todd Reynolds of North Adams, Massachusetts. I've had so many experiences of dreams as deja vu. I dream years later, it comes true. Can you speak to that as an occurrence? I'm sure it's commonplace, but how does it work?
I'm not sure scientifically I know how it works, Todd, but I think that's really true, that there are a lot of times that you'll have a dream and then later on you'll experience that. I think sometimes that is your psyche preparing you for something that's coming. Like, I dreamed about my mother dying before she died. And it was very comforting to me that I had said goodbye to her in this dream because I did not make it back to Texas before she died. And then I realized that I had had a chance to say goodbye in this dream. And it really made um, my grief process better. And interestingly, during 9/11, before 9/11, there were several people, many people, who had dreams of planes crashing into towers. It was a very common occurrence, and I know it was that sort of situation where they didn't know how it was going to happen. It was just an odd dream that they had, and then a month, 6 months, 2 years later, it happens, and I think sometimes it's our own psyche's way of giving us some preparatory work for something that's about to happen. It doesn't happen a lot. I wouldn't say it's commonplace, Todd, but it does happen.
Thank you, Todd, for that question. And Dr. Connor, okay, let's see. I think we have a question from somebody you might know.
I do know that person.
So we have a question from Durham, North Carolina, from a man named Aaron Huslage. And Nancy might know him. And his question is, what are the risks of misinterpreting dreams?
I don't know that there's big risk in that. I mean, I think that you're more likely to misinterpret dreams if you try to do it yourself without some help, because you might think it's one thing and it's another. I think the real risk is if you take a dream too literally and interpret it literally, that can sometimes be a risk, because dreams come in symbol and metaphor more than they come in literal ways. And I think if you take the dream as, for instance, if someone is in your dream and they're very angry with you, and it's somebody you know in waking life, don't go decide that person's a bad person. And this was something your psyche gave you, and it's what that person presents inside of you. So if you can stay out of taking things too literally, I think you do better.
That's right, because you didn't go after Miss Pat, did you?
No. I knew that was about me.
Let's see. The next question is, do you believe dreams can be prophetic?
Yes. Not often, but yes, they can. I've seen times that they've been prophetic. It doesn't happen as much as people think it does. It's kind of a rare occurrence, but it happens. Yeah, some dreams are prophetic, but that's pretty rare, I would say.
Okay.
And even, let me just say one more thing about that. Even if it's prophetic, there's probably another layer of that dream that's very symbolic. And if we just look at the prophetic part of it, we've missed the other part of it that's taking us deeper inside ourselves. So
like particularly dreams that are in what we would call sacred scriptures.
Right.
Regardless to the faith. Yeah.
There are prophetic dreams. Yes, there are. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that, Nancy. Tex Whitney from Sydney, Australia. When becoming aware that you are in a dream and guiding events in the twilight state, are you in fact awake and conscious at that point?
That is called lucid dreaming. And some people do wake up in their dreams and do direct the dream a bit while they're still there. And I would say they are awake when they're doing that. And then sometimes I think you fall back into a deeper sleep where you're not. You're not conscious anymore. But yes, I think that does happen for some people. I am not much of a lucid dreamer, but there is a man that I know who's really good at and has written quite a lot about lucid dreaming. His name is Ryan Hurd, Hurd. If you want to read more about that, he's your man. He's really good. So you can look up Ryan Hurd, and he's talked quite a lot about lucid dreaming. And I know very little about it because I don't do it very much.
Okay. Thank you, Tex, for that question. And we are back with, I can't quite see the name. Let's see, influence what we see in our dreams. What connections between reliving trauma in waking life to revive us in dreams?
I think it was about PTSD. I think that was the first line of that question. I saw the question. Can you scroll back down and look at the top of that question, Tony?
Okay, so I'm going to try it one more time.
There's another line to the question.
Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask that they push that one along, and let's come back to that one.
Okay.
Because I really can't see it. So can you talk? Okay. Can you talk about future projects that you are thinking of?
Yes, several, really. I think that dream work is expanding beyond Jung, and I think that there are some people that I'm working with that we're developing new ways of looking at dreams. And one of them is a woman who's just about to finish her PhD in depth psychology, and she's studying somatic dream work, which is how dreams live in your body, what your somatic response to the dream is. And so one of the things that we've worked on together is when someone tells a dream to say, where do you feel it in your body? And what is your body telling you about that dream? And I think that's very exciting. It's a new way of looking at dreams, and it has lots of potential, I think. And I think another thing that's coming back into, there's a lot of work that was done a long time ago with shamans and dreams, and the shamanic dream work practices are showing back up in pretty clear ways of looking at dreams on a more shamanic level. And those are interesting to me. They're very interesting to me.
Can you share the website for DreamWorks?
For what?
For the institute. Can you share the
HadenInstitute.com. It's HADEN Institute.com. I am a mentor. I've been a mentor in that program as well, and it's a great. If you are interested in a great dream work education, it's a great place to go.
Okay, and this is an office hours question. Is it virtual?
Well, part of it's virtual and part of it's in person. There are two ways you can do the program. You can do it virtually and you can do it in person. I personally think that you miss something if you do it virtually, because there's this community that forms when you're in person that is just phenomenal. But it's also nice if you're in Australia, for instance, it would be great to be in a virtual community.
And I would say that if you had an opportunity to see in the way in which office hours does engagement virtually, you might shift your opinion just a little bit.
I understand.
And let's see, Mike Emmett is back again. He says, how much does a health condition like PTSD influence what we see in our dreams? What's the connection between reliving trauma and waking life to relive it in our dreams?
So that's a really interesting question. I think that the nightmares that people with PTSD have are really, really difficult and really hard. And one of the things I honestly think, if people could look at these traumatic dreams as symbolic, it might take a little of the sting out of the dreams. It's just a theory I have, and I don't know that it's true. But I think you have to be really careful with dreams. PTSD dreams I'm not an expert on that, and I don't know that. I think it can be really reliving trauma in the daytime. But I think also dreams can be very healing if they're treated with some respect. I think they can help that process along. I know there was a moment when I thought I was going to do some work at the VA hospital in Durham, doing some work with PTSD folks. But, I'm not a therapist, and I think that it requires so much expertise. I just didn't feel like I could. I didn't feel like I was the right person to do that.
Thank you, Mike, for that question.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is, Nancy, your final thoughts. So, do you have some final thoughts that you want to share with us?
I think we've covered an awful lot. And I think that what I would say is, if you want to connect more doing dream work, I do have some online dream groups forming, and I also do one-on-one work.
And where can people find those online groups?
They would just need to email me, Nancy Huslage at nancyhuslage.com. If you email me, I can send you information about that. And I do private work too, and I have other folks that do.
And share that one more time.
Nancy Huslage at nancyhuslage.com.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. It's Nancy at nancyhuslage.com. I said it wrong. It's Nancy at nancyhuslage.com.
Thank you, Nancy. And you were about to say something about other team members?
Well, I think that if my practice is full, I have other people that I can refer you to.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, and Robert is back with another question. Would you say dreams are sometimes our best medicine, wisdom, something you may not get from a friend or therapist?
Yes. Yes, I think that it's the most direct link that we have to what Jung called the self with a capital S, the big self, the big part of ourselves. I think we have more inner wisdom than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that dreams are really the most direct way to get in touch with what our purpose is and what we have to offer. And I have had people say to me after we've worked either in a group or individually, I've been in therapy for 8 years and I just found out more in this hour than I'd ever known before. And that's because it came from them. It wasn't somebody trying to tell them about them, tell them things or give advice. Their own psyche has given them their advice. And that's the thing that's so powerful about dreams.
Very, very powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Nancy. And thank you, Robert, for your great questions tonight. Robert, thank you so much. You had some great questions tonight. Let's see. The next question is, what are you most concerned about for the future?
Well, I think we're in a pretty fragile time right now. But one of the things that I have thought about, so Jeremy Taylor talked about working at in a prison with really violent violent conflict. I can't say that word.
Convicts.
Yeah, I don't know why I was having trouble saying that. And he did dream work with them, and the level of violence in the prison went down 50%.
Oh, wow.
Just because they did this work. And so it's always been my feeling that if we could somehow get more and more people to work on their dreams, they wouldn't be acting out so much in society or anything else. And so my concern is always that people go inward and know that they have this wisdom in themselves. And so I've always thought that we could change the world if we could get more people to do dream work.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy, for that. You're speaking to the world. What do you want them to know about life, about maybe their dreams?
You have everything you need inside of you. Everything is there. You don't have to look beyond yourself to find what you need for your life. The more you look inward, the more you pay attention to your dreams, the more you will see that all the wisdom that you need for your whole life is right there.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Nancy, so much for this conversation. Wow. Can you share your email again one more time, please?
Nancy at nancyhuslage.com.
Thank you, Nancy. Really, really appreciate it. This has been an amazing conversation, and I am so thankful for your son Aaron sharing you with us tonight. I am more than happy about this conversation. Thank you again so much. I want to give special thanks to Kimberly Mobley, Ron Mobley, Global Family and Friends, Alex Lindsay, Office Hour members, Cloud, Bedrock LLC, DVE Store, Liminal Entertainment Technology, Byte Hive, Video360.com, ApproveForLoan.com, Mr. Ken Jordan, Jonas Dattel, Aaron Huslage, Cherrick Cheetah, David Brady, Marcus Lee Folk, Richard Lavery, Chris Fenwick, Mon Lozano, Jeffrey Powers, Bo Cordell, Mickey McAchore, Doug Moeller, Bryant Shan, Clark Lopez Waterman, Conversation with Tony Mobley, producer. Thank you again, Nancy, for doing the work.
It was great being with you.
Next week, The featured guest is Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Santa Claus is coming to Conversations with Tony Mobley in January. That's right, Santa Claus. Mr. Greg Swice will be with us next week. Please come and find out more about how and why he does his Christmas magic. And so, coming soon, more interesting conversations, educators, mental health, filmmakers, musicians, and other creators. Thank you so much for coming to Conversations with Tony Mobley. Again, thank you so much, Nancy Huslage, for being with me tonight. Thank you again. And we're looking forward to seeing you next week. Santa Claus in January. Come next week. Take care and good night.